Welcome to the Make Living Pleasurable Show, a show for people pursuing what they love in life and not settling. My name is David Brower, also known as the Sensorial Guy, former entertainment industry executive and best-selling author, American in Paris turned lifestyle entrepreneur, pleasure coach, bon vivant, and provocateur. In each episode, with my eclectic guests, we connect you with inspiring and at times surprising teachings, messages, and experiences to help you effectively find, evolve, and savor your unique pleasurable life inside and out. Now let's get to the work of pleasure together. Thanks for joining us today. Hello, this is David Brower with the Make Living Pleasurable Show, and I'm delighted to welcome today Julia Paulette Hollenbery. Today we're going to talk about pleasure for healing, and I couldn't invite a better guest to speak on the subject. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you. Hello again, David.
An inside joke. Let me tell you a little bit about Julia. Julia is a bodyworker, a therapist, a mystic, a healer, and a facilitator, and also an author of a newly released book. For 25 years, she's been guiding countless people to deep confidence and self-authority, and surely living a life of pleasure and aliveness. She has a sincere passion for sharing her lifelong love of the mystery and the sensual relationship we have with ourselves, with others, and including our bodies. She's healing the world from her London base, and she just released a book, which we will talk about recently, entitled The Healing Power of Pleasure, 7 Medicines for Rediscovering the Innate Joy of Being. So welcome to the show, Julia. This is so great to be together.
Hello, 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 hello. I wonder what we'll create together today.
Yes, the mystery remains. So let's explore. I mean, if there's anybody who has spent most of their life in the pleasure realm, it surely is you. So how do you define pleasure?
Oh my gosh, define. Almost define is the antithesis of pleasure, isn't it? Like define is something finished and complete and defined, whereas pleasure is spontaneous and arising and unexpected and delicious and changing and maybe I have answered your question. I don't know. I don't know. Pleasure is delicious and delightful, and when it is present, it's undeniable.
How do we know that pleasure is present?
No, each of us in our own way. We know, we feel it, we sense it, we enjoy it, we relax, we feel more grounded, we feel calmer, we feel excited and hopeful and enjoyable, and that can be, as we know, from anything. It can be from a conversation, it can be for a cup of tea, it can be from a glance out the window.
So pleasure for you permeates every aspect of life. It's not just the relationship to what happens in the bedroom or drugs or drinking or these types of things. Pleasure is something that integrates and permeates all of life, the good, bad, and the ugly.
I like the phrase the good, bad, and the ugly. For me, drugs, no, that wouldn't be a pleasurable zone. For me, pleasure is really a bodily experience. So sometimes I experience pleasure like right now in my feet, the soles of my feet, or sometimes in my mouth or the crook of my elbow or my pelvis, or kind of can be anywhere. This kind of melting in bliss. And why I like your phrase, the good, bad, and the ugly, is because, of course, Pleasure is not static. So on one side we experience pleasure, on the other side we also, all of us, have difficult times, and it's the interplay, the dance between the times when we're afraid or the times when we're in pain with the times when we are able to enjoy pleasurableness.
How did you come about being so deliciously attracted to the concept of pleasure and seeking curiously to use pleasure, leverage pleasure, whatever the right word is for healing? What is the story of your life that's brought you to live life this way and to support others too also?
Thanks for the question. I was not a particularly happy child. I had a difficult time for many reasons. And at the same time, I knew without doubt that there was so much more pleasure possible than I saw the people around me living, and that than I myself was experiencing. So I would be outside in the garden, in contact, if you like, with everything. And then I would go back indoors into the house where I lived or into the school, and everything became small and about small things and difficult and complicated. And I wished that I could show the people around me something of what I knew was possible, and that I was determined to live fully for myself.
And so you part of your work is as a body worker, and how does your story relate to that? And how would you describe body work? Sounds like that can be a lot of different things.
Cool. So I had a difficult time as a child, and I had a difficult time as a teenager, and I was determined to find my way to becoming the full me that I felt on the inside. So I set off and I explored counseling, and I explored psychotherapy, and I explored many, many different healing and spiritual modalities. I can't even remember them all, to be honest. Really. My mum was a body worker. My mum was a physiotherapist. So I had been around that all my life. And then after university, where I studied English literature and drama, I moved country and I set out on the first of my bodywork trainings. And I've done a few. So you ask, what is bodywork? Bodywork fundamentally is a therapeutic modality, not only through verbal dialogue, but also always through the relationship between the practitioner and the client, and also through the contact of the hands directly on the body, softly or more deeply, if it's deep tissue work, and even just a little bit off the body. So it's an engagement. Oh, it feels delicious to me to begin to describe it. One of the trainings that I did, we worked at different levels. So we would work at the level of bone, of fluids in the body, of muscles, of nerves. I'm also a craniosacral therapist. That kind of body work was called the Grimberg method of body work. I'm also a craniosacral therapist, a biodynamic craniosacral therapist. And that work is very still, and it's a subtle engagement with the nervous system, but also absolutely in a different way with the fluids of the body. And as I like to describe it, with the light that is held within the water, within the cells, within every cell of the body. And then there's other kinds of body work as well. There's constellation work, which may not typically be thought of as body work, but it's phenomenological. So all of the work and the way that I work, the way that I think benefits people, is not only about being touched, it's also for them to bring their attention to their experience of being touched, for them to bring their attention to the experience and story of their symptom, of their issue, of their problem. And it's the attention, it's the relationship, it's the direct touch that all together, it is energy work, really starts to undo the knot, to undo the problem that's underlying whatever's presenting. And then, as we know, things start to loosen, to release, to unravel, and comes more peace and wholeness. That was a longer answer than I expected to give you there.
I love body work. It's interesting because I've often said that my number one healer is not my generalist doctor, it's my osteopath, who practices a lot of additional modalities to that on the energy level, on so many different levels, as well as an incredible conversation. And I always go there and tell her exactly what's going on in my life. And she knows my body, my energy so well now that she does what you talk about. And for me, that's the greatest healer, really, that I have in my life, besides, maybe going dancing, which I believe is also a certain form of body work, right? Which is great because you talked about in the book doing the opposites of potentially what you usually do. So maybe do freestyle dancing, but then go and do something that has steps to kind of create contrast and I've actually been doing that with learning salsa and bachata and just kind of loving, kind of knowing the rules to then F the rules, right? And just even just the movement. And I've actually realized for me that exercise and movement, which I guess I would call body work, is like when I'm not doing body work every day, I'm not well.
I think
I'm really
it's
not.
true for everybody. And the key is that there's no one particular thing. It's not that yoga is better than dancing, or Tai Chi is better than walking, or jogging is better than than tennis, right? It's really a question of each person finding what works for them and where the pleasure is, what they enjoy. Pachanga sounds amazing, right? I love Sarok. I love different kinds of dancing too. So it's where your pleasure is in the movement. And when the body is put in motion, when the body is moving, then the stuck patterns have an opportunity to move. And all of us in our crazy modern lifestyle spend far too much time sitting down and being still. And our bodies are not meant for that. So any kind of motion and movement is good for us. Helps to shake it up, release things, get us flowing again, and get us in contact with our body, which of course is where our life is lived and is where our pleasure is.
Yeah. Amen to that. So let's talk a little bit about, is pleasure for everybody? I mean, is it accessible to everybody? Is this more a feminine kind of thing? Is this not for somebody who has a busy life? Can you not have a pleasurable life and be an ambitious person who does a very logical transitional professional life, how do we make sense of how pleasure fits into our lives no matter what we do?
I felt sad at first listening to your question. Pleasure absolutely is for everybody. We tend to put it last on our to-do list. First of all, we'll get all our jobs done, and then at the end, perhaps, if we've got all our stuff done, then we'll have a little bit of pleasure. And then it's also kind of, I'll grab my pleasure, perhaps at the expense of somebody else, right? Or I'll grab my pleasure. And I'm really talking about a different kind of pleasure that is, and it's the same kind of pleasure, right? That is arising and possible in every moment. So I often talk about productive pausing. So for people who are very busy, and that's almost all of us these days, pausing interrupts that habit of non-stop thoughts, of non-stop doing, and it's the pattern interrupter that is the beginning, is the way into pleasure. So pleasure is something that is receptive. We experience the pleasure when we, in a way you could say, choose to or allow ourselves to experience the pleasure. And as I said before, pleasure can be experienced absolutely anywhere in our bodies. Just checking if there's something else to add about. So for busy people, you can also choose. You can choose pleasure directly and say, I'm going to begin my day with pleasurableness, whether that's a walk in the sunshine, time with children or pets, a delicious snack, setting your desk up beautifully, dressing in a way that makes you feel good. And that active choice combined with productive pausing means that pleasure can become absolutely a part of your everyday life. And in fact, the more that one works and lives from pleasure, the more effective everything becomes, whether that's a task, a piece of work, or a conversation with a member of your family or company or community.
Yeah.
I guess a trick is not to force yourself. When you feel tired or you feel weary, our culture says, keep going, override the signals of your body. Don't go to the toilet. Don't have a rest. Don't stop to eat or drink something. And I'd say the opposite. I'd say the moment when you feel weary, pause, stop, go and do something else, refresh yourself. And then when you come back to the task, you'll come back with a refreshed perspective. And when you bring pleasure to it, it's much more likely that there will be a positive outcome. If something's created from grind and exhaustion and resentment, it carries that vibration. And when something is created from, I've got enough of what I need, and I'm going to talk about this thing with you that we need to talk about, even if it might be difficult, but we're going to find our way to enjoy that conversation or enjoy that piece of work, then we're going to create something else entirely. And actually, I think that's the way we'll heal ourselves and our planet.
Very, very interesting way to live life, to integrate pleasure into everything that you do and have the intention and find the moments, build the habits, find the way to pattern break. That's just so great, Julia. What about this this kind of forced way of looking at pleasure versus pain? We've kind of almost made a choice that it's either pleasure or pain, and I've really sought as much as I can to desensitize myself. I'm not sure if that's really the right word, but expose myself to certain certain pains and find the pleasure in it. And I often use the example of cold showers, which I know you briefly mentioned towards the end of the book, as a way, first of all, to feel alive, because I think it feels great. And I love to swim in cold water. And so this kind of trains me and brings me back into this kind of feeling. And there must be chemical stuff going on, et cetera. And it's good for my well-being. But I'm always saying to myself, where's the pleasure in the cold, in the 10-degree shower water? So is this equanimity that we're talking about in the pleasure pain spectrum, or is there a different way of looking at it, so that like we navigate pain and pleasure with some wisdom, and it's not just either or, no shades of gray, no nuances?
I like the word equanimity. Our world is very nuanced, full of detail. It's absolutely not an either-or experience. We have been brought up to suffer, to work hard, to tug our forelocks, to exhaust ourselves. I think that what we need to bring is kindness. Kindness to ourselves and kindness to others. Kindness when we're having a difficult time and we think that we failed and we've got it wrong and we're getting it wrong and disaster's going to follow. Kindness to ourselves when we're feeling desperate and alone and a failure. And when we bring kindness, when we accept the truth that in this moment I am feeling terrible, somehow something shifts and opens, and within the feeling terribleness, we can start to find something that is positive and good and pleasurable. But we don't get there by denying the reality of when we're in difficult times. And there are plenty of difficult times in our lives. Cold showers are wonderful. I just got out of hot, cold in my own shower this morning. It works. It works because it stimulates the nervous system and wakes the body up and brings more circulation into the body. So it's absolutely an enlivening experience. At bottom is often a sense that we're not worthy of experiencing pleasure, that we're not worthy of being content and happy. We're all worthy. We all deserve to live good and happy and healthy lives. And to get there, we need to do some self-care. And we need to, bother to look after ourselves, bother to look after other people, and know, and perhaps that's the wisdom of old age, right? Know that when we're having a difficult time, even though it can feel like it's the end and it's going to last forever, that often, if we bring enough resources to it, a difficult time can turn into a good time. It's not to be trite, but it is to understand that life is not static and things are always changing, and one pleasurable experience is followed by one difficult experience, and one difficult experience is often followed by one good experience. It's like we don't really know what's going on in our lives, but it unfolds and it happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and it leans into a bit what you've spoken about, at least what I'm hearing about the trust, this trusting in life. And I would even say trusting in the abundance of life, which you talk about, that, there's more to come. There's more there. There was something really beautiful you expressed in the book about that the way to live abundantly is to recognize and experience what is here with you right now. You know what you have, who you are. Could you speak a little bit about how to live abundantly?
I think gratitude is a part of that. With war going on in the world, a light is being shone in stark relief on our lives. We may feel grumpy that we need to do the washing up and we need to do the hoovering. But aren't we lucky that we've got washing up that we need to do and homes that we need to take care of? And the last 2 years, where people haven't gone out perhaps as much as they used to, we have had the opportunity to appreciate smaller details. And the abundance, in a way, lies in those details of noticing the details of your friend's face, your lover's face, your colleague's face, the tone of their voice, the way the light moves during the day across the garden, arranging pieces in your home just so that it brings you satisfaction and contentment. Appreciation opens us up to more rather than criticism and complaint. We all do have so much to be grateful for. We're all alive for a start.
How do we give more meaning to that, more value to that? You know, I know that's like you're against the sort of grasping and the going after and everything. It just feels to me like a lot of us are in kind of a hypnotism and our focus by distraction and addiction to work or fleeing a certain feeling or, you know, so we don't sit there and savor our lunch. I have a very dear friend, very ambitious lady and friend of mine who I saw a few weeks ago, and she told me that when she goes to get her haircut, she's eating her lunch while she's getting her haircut in the middle of her, 14-hour days. And I'm like, really? So for me, there isn't a valuing of the break time, the pattern break. And so what does it take for people to escape that and give value to, or give more meaning to that? And what are ways that people can, connect more to this gratitude and appreciation? And not only that, because I do think that you give value to something. You can consciously give value to something by your attention, by bringing in some gratitude, by connecting with your senses, by remembering how maybe it compares to something else you've experienced, like collecting all of this data. So yeah, could you speak to that?
So why I was enjoying you making these fists is because I sensed your passion. It's like you didn't yet have the words and you were reaching for it. You were wanting, like, how can people draw this in, right? That's what I sensed you were asking. Yeah. That's why I responded to your gesture.
Okay.
And in a way, the answer is the body, right? Is becoming much more sensitive to our body. And in the example that you gave, many people are living with their attention distracted in so many different directions. We eat a meal, but we're listening to the news, or we're making love and we're thinking of something else entirely, right? So part of the way to gather this abundance is to only do one thing at a time. Or when you're doing one thing, to really I mean, you can also do more than one thing at a time, but when you're doing something, to notice your own body while you're doing it, so that you're not exercising at the gym while your attention is somewhere else, but you're exercising while sensing your own body. So you can feel your elbows, you can feel your knees, you can feel your forearms, you can feel your soles of your feet, you can feel your thighs, you can feel your forehead, right? You can feel your shoulders. And as I'm naming these body parts, you can feel the palms of your hands, right? As I'm naming these body parts, I'm also sensing them. And I guess I'm inviting you and anyone who's listening to sense your body. Right now, my buttocks, right? So the more that we can bring literally our attention back from all the very many distractions into sensing our flesh, into sensing our body, into waking our body up, the more we're here now, the more we are able to heal and the more we're able to enjoy. I mean, I love the life of the body, right? When you really are in your body, it feels good, quietly, simply good. It doesn't need to be a great big peak experience. It's just quietly good to be oneself, physically, three-dimensionally, in the body on earth.
Yeah, and it seems to me that the more that we give attention to our body and lean into our senses, actually that's kind of the practice in itself. We, by virtue of, being there, offering the attention, allowing, receiving, bringing the gratitude, that we start to appreciate more. It's almost like appreciation leads to, or attention leads to appreciation, because actually finally you're there. If you think about like relationships, some relationships where people have, their attention is no longer in the relationship, and you wonder why the relationship has gone sour. They can't really see each other. They don't really know each other anymore because they've pulled away most of their attention. Even when they're with the person, they're not really there. And that may even come to body connection, kissing, just the simple act of touching, dancing together, all of these sensory things. So it makes a lot of sense how powerful the body is. Like how many people actually hug and hold each other like every day that, live together, or with your kids, or, all of these types of things feel so valuable for me. So I think that's so great what you're suggesting and offering. And in that vein, your book, a good part of the second part of the book, and particularly towards the end, I guess, comes into these ideas of the practices for potential. Because at the end of the day, really, it seems to me like your book is about like, let's live up to our full human potential, each of us in our own way. And pleasure is a great vehicle to, jump into and ride through every moment of life to achieve our full potential in all the different aspects of our life. So maybe we could talk about these practices of potential, which I guess are these the 7 medicines that you are offering and sharing and teaching people about?
So the 7 medicines are slow, body, depth, relationship, pleasure, power, and potential. And the 7 medicines in the book take people on a journey from mess to magic. Each is full of inspiring, paradigm-shifting ideas and practical exercises. There's a feast of practical exercises.
That's great.
And some of what we've spoken about, interrupting patterns, slowing down, is there in the medicine of slowing. We've talked quite a bit about the body, right? We've also talked about attention and how attention is transformational. how with attention you can transform the simplest task, like washing up, can become quite delicious. And when you really bring your attention into a relationship, when you really see the other person and hear the other person, when you are really present to feeling their touch, everything changes. So my sense is that pleasure is not only a path to travel, it is also the fruits of living well. And the more that we see, in a way, as opposed to the false grabbing of pleasure, when we are really ourselves and really living our potential, it is joyful and pleasurable. So the pleasure comes as a byproduct, if you like, of the healing, of being more ourselves. It's our reward. I can talk about more practicals if you'd like, or I wonder where you'd like us to go.
When you were talking, I was listening first of all, but it was reminding me about the word savoring, which I often speak about, and that I'm
Relishing.
exploring a lot these days. Relishing, yeah, and which again feels like a form of ritualizing, practicing, training in bringing yourself to the present moment, and then really amplifying the appreciation, the gratitude, and the pleasure to again seemingly give more value and meaning to what you're experiencing. That's not necessarily the end goal, as you're just saying. I love how you just express it. It's the pleasure is both on the voyage and the destination. I mean, it's part of all. One shouldn't be separate from the other, and they're almost interdependent. That one happens thanks to the other. Well, maybe the one that you're living every day has more effect on the outcome than the way back around,
I know that you
or
like
the
your
other way
food,
around.
David. And you must know that you can have the most delicious meal in front of you. But if you're in a bad mood, or you're not happy about something, or you've got something itchy in your trousers, right? It's kind of hard to enjoy the meal. Whereas if you really bring yourself to that, as well as the food bringing itself to you, the whole experience is amplified. So we're talking a lot here about sensitization to the body, really coming home to oneself again and again and again, coming home to one's body, coming home to the people that we're with, being here right now, choosing to be in integrity, choosing to make the most of this gift of life that we've been given. And that doesn't necessarily mean needing to spend lots of money. It means being open and present and curious and savoring this, whatever it is.
That's so great. I've often you ever gotten that question on a podcast? Maybe what do you want written on your tombstone when you pass, assuming you want a tombstone or whatever. But I've often replied to that question. No one appreciated or savored life more than David, and it's just a message to myself to experience and live what you just expressed. I couldn't agree more that abundance is all around us in everything if we just really come to our senses and reconnect to the pleasure that is there, and it's through the body and the senses. I mean, don't see how otherwise, even though you need to use your head perhaps to bring your awareness there. So yeah, I think that's and feel that the healing, the medicine of what you're bringing through your book is very much integratable to, in a practical way, in very down to earth ways, in very realistic ways. A lot of the examples you give are everyday living, like you were talking about doing the dishes, or there's so many things that we go through in everyday life that we can bring more pleasure to. And I have surely been on that quest my whole life. How do I make whatever more pleasurable? What has been the reaction to people around your book and from your book? Has there been anything that has surprised you about how people are reacting, or any amazing new insights you would like to share with us?
Delighted by the great reviews that it's received and the way that it's touching people, and that of course it's about a lot more than just pleasure. All the conundrums, right? It's both simple and complex and rich. I think it's what we need in these times. We need to find ways to be able to make good decisions, even when there's these great big things going on in the world and around us. So people have been really appreciative of, if I may call it, the wisdom that's in the book. And I am grateful for the opportunity to share this message that I'm passionate about, because it matters and each of us matter.
So why don't you tell us about where we can find your book and where we can find you, and anything else you would like to share about that?
I want to say that we can together co-create a much better world, cats and animals and plants and people included. So the book is available everywhere. It's on Amazon. It's W.H. Smith, Waterstones, online in many independent bookshops, Barnes and Noble, Inner Traditions. My website is called universeofdeliciousness.com. I'm on social media. I am teaching the book. I am teaching this way of being in the world through individual sessions and workshops in North London and online and in Europe. So all the details are on my website.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to share this delicious way of being.
Mm.
And I love your epitaph, David. It's beautiful.
Which one? Sorry.
I think you only shared one.
Oh, the epitaph on the
About
tombstone.
savoring.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I'm hopefully always a student there also throughout my life. It's interesting when you're with other people in different experiences, and we can't always tell what's going on for people. But when you sense that someone is really there, right? The way that they're dancing, or the way that they're talking about what they're experiencing, what they're eating, what they're loving about it, and like these little expressions and sharings and noticings and curiosities that people share with others that allow us collectively to be more in a pleasurable space. And I know your book is going to help people to
Just thought I'd show it, actually.
Oh yeah, great idea. Yeah, The Healing Power of Pleasure, great book. There's also an audio version.
There is. Those are my post-it notes from when I read from the book, my favorite passages.
I'll tell you, there's so many post-it notes needed. So no, I really sense the timing for this is really amazing, and nonetheless, it's it's a wake up call in a kind way, in a pragmatic way, in a way that's also full of imagination and mystery and magic, which are all the stuff of what makes for a life of aliveness for sure. So we're basically coming to the end here of the show. I want to first of all thank you. Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing this pleasurable moment with me to talk about the pleasure of healing and to share your book and everything. I invite everyone to go check that out. And as is tradition, I would like to just leave with you the closing remarks for everybody, whatever you would like to share about this, that people can bring into their lives from today and live pleasurably forever after.
I guess what I'm with in this moment is that I believe in you. I believe in everybody. People have amazing hearts. People are amazing what they're capable of. And I wish you the very best. Delicious, brave, honourable, real you life. And I hope that my book and my work can contribute to that. And if it's not, then there are many resources out there that can help you to live your best life. And together, from a vortex, a positive vortex of kindness and happiness and joy, I really hope we can co-create peace and a good world for all. With much deliciousness.
Thank you for this pleasurable moment together, Julia. Thanks, everyone. Stay tuned for the next episode of Make Living Pleasurable.